Today we're going to be restoring the chromework on this 1953 Chevy pickup bumper. It's not in a terrible state, but it is rusted. There's some dents there as well. I don't know if you just saw them. There's a message on my phone just arriving. So it's red rusty. It's going to need a bit of attention. So as normal, first job is to book it in. Take a photograph of it. What we always do, we book everything in, it's listed out, we print the picture off that we've just taken, and that goes with the bumper, and that goes around the workshop. Another message, I must be popular today. Now before I'm taking this into the workshop, I'm going to remove that sticker that's on there, because that sticker will prevent it from stripping. Even the sticky residue will stop the plating stripping off it. You would think that sticking it in an acid tank would get rid of it all, but it doesn't get rid of any of it. So here we go, getting wired up. In order to strip the old plating off, we are going to do a reverse of the normal process. So we need to put it on copper wires so that we can pass a current through it the opposite way. Now this time we're going to be getting rid of the rust before we put it in the stripper tank. So it's been in there for a while now, and as you can see, the rust has been removed. That's hydrochloric acid that we've used to remove that. It's the same acid that's in your stomach, a little bit stronger, but it is the same acid that's in your stomach. Now it's going into the stripper tank, where we're going to pass a current through it in the opposite way that we do for plating. So what happens is the workpiece, in this case the bumper, becomes the anode, and those lead sheets at the side become a cathode, and we're effectively plating it off. So a nice rinse. Now we're back to clean bare metal, no rust. So this is ideal. You can't work on anything that's dirty, that's rusty. It's never going to work. Now, before we actually get into the polishing section, this bumper's got some dents and lumps and bumps in it. So what we're doing here is we're just running what's called a sateen mop, which is a greaseless polishing compound. We're just running that over the surface, and the only reason for doing this is so that we can actually see where the dents are. It's just to clean it up a bit, because with the etched finish that you get from the stripper, you can't really see where dents are. So you can see clearly there's some dents there. There's a dent there, a dent there, and another dent up there. So this has now gone to our repairman. This is the only part of the procedure that we don't actually do in-house. So we send it to this man, who's allowed us to strap a camera to him so you can see how it's done. I have to admit, when it comes to removing these dents, for me it's a little bit of a black art. The one thing I do know is he's never striking it absolutely 90 degrees on. He's not striking it straight. He's always moving the hammer as it's striking. quite enjoyable watching him. To see a craftsman at work is always something I enjoy looking at, and I hope that's why you're having a look now. If it is the sort of thing that you like, because we want to be putting more of these videos up, then you can always subscribe to our channel. Just in the bottom right hand corner, just below where it says Marque Restore, you'll find the subscribe button. If you hit that button and then hit the notification bell as well, you'll be updated when we put new videos up, so you'll get to see more stuff. Our metalwork guy has 40 years of experience and knows exactly where to hit stuff to get the metal to move, because I believe metal is very fluid, and you start hitting one area and it can be moving another area. Bit of hand dolly work there. Always notice how the face of the hammer's moving over it as it hits. Almost a bit of a flick. Apparently this is what you need to do to move the metal, so I've been told, but like I said, this isn't my area of expertise, so just watch and enjoy. I've got to say, he does make it look easy. I've attempted doing things like this myself, and although I have been successful on the very limited things that I've done, it does take me a lot longer. These complicated dents up the end here, where there's quite a few of them, they're not really the sort of thing I would normally take on. Bit of a twist there as well. But he knows just how to work it to move the metal in the direction he wants. He's using the square end of the hammer. I have no clue why, but that's what he's doing. See, those dents are still there, still got to work it some more. He has told me that often part of the hardest bit is holding the bumper while you're working on it. So I can see where he's wedged it against the table now. All I know is he's working that metal, moving it around to where he wants it, stretching it out. I know that sometimes he has to take sections of bumpers and shrink them in order to pull things in different directions. Some of the dents that he sorted out for us, you would have thought they were scrap. But so long as there's enough metal there to work, it's amazing what can be done. Oh, it's got a bit faster now. It always seems to me that you would think that you would pick up, because that's quite a thick bumper, you would think that you would pick up a very large hammer to hit it with, but it appears that a smaller hammer with lots of different hits is the way to go. Miraculously, that twist is now out of it as well. Just dressing it up now. I've got to say, he is very good with a grinder. He doesn't put a load of ripples in it. He actually smooths it off really well. We have used metalwork guys in the past that go and undo half of their good work by grinding something and putting a load of ripples in it that we've then got to try and get out, which is a bit of a task on a polishing spindle because it's not really designed for taking ripples out of things. Finally taking those rough marks out and leaving us a nice reasonable finish to start polishing with. Finished now. Time to go through into the polishing shop. You can see how well those dents have been removed. It's as if they were never there, which is obviously what we're aiming for. Now this is the first polishing operation, which is known as cutting out. As a child, I always used to remember going to my dad's factory and seeing the guys polishing away there, and I was also always fascinated by all the sparks that come off it, so I had to put a bit of slow motion in of the sparks. They always look fantastic. Now when you're polishing something, you do have to remove metal. There isn't any way to polish stuff without removing some metal. Now these Chevy bumpers are nice and thick, so we shouldn't have any problems with polishing them up. This is starting off on a pretty rough grade. This will be a 60 grit, because although the bumper doesn't look rough, where the original corrosion marks were and the rust, it does bite in. So on the first polishing operation, we've got to cut out all those marks. So there's one belt that's dead. Next belt. So this is still cutting out. Until you've got all of the marks out, you cannot move on to the next operation. And once you've got all the marks out, every operation after that is removing the marks that you've just put in. Still more cutting out to be done. So I don't know exactly what grade belt this is started with. It will be either a 60 or an 80. So quite rough at this stage. This is so we can remove the metal down to get all the corrosion marks out in a reasonable time, as quickly as possible. Still cutting out, still on the first operation. The first operation is the longest polishing operation. Now this belt's going on. This is going to be 1 grade finer. So it's probably a 120 belt. That's presuming we were using an 80 belt before. So having to go over all over where we've been. Now what we do in between each grade, polish in a slightly different direction, and the reason you do that is it will reveal, when you look at it, you'll see the previous abrasion marks going at a different angle if you haven't removed them all, because it's imperative that on every grade you remove every mark from the grade that you used before as you're getting finer. So that's what's happening here. So polishing that bumper straight at the moment and straight down it. See, bumpers like this can be costly on abrasives, which is what we're up to. Is it about 6 belts already? So the abrasive costs can be quite a lot just on this one item. If you carry on, once your belt's lost its cut, if you carry on, all you're doing is putting loads and loads of heat into it. It doesn't polish the marks out, it just makes the thing really hot. Still getting those heavy initial linishing marks out that we put in on when we were cutting the bumper out. That's it. Now I think we're actually going to something like a 180 or a 240. So this time we'll go in a slightly different direction, so slightly at an angle. Now we'll be able to see if those, got to keep going till all the straight lines running down the bumper are out. There we go, we've actually skipped on a couple of grades now, mainly because the camera ran out of battery and we didn't realise, so we missed a bit of footage. Now we're actually on a 320 grit now, so we've missed out a good half an hour or 40 minutes of polishing time. you can see that as the grades are getting finer, you can actually start to see a bit of a shine on the bumper. Now what's happening here is he's deliberately blunted the belt off, and this is a process known as glazing. So we'll go over it again, but this time he's made the cut finer. So doing the other end of the bumper. There we go, blunted the belt off to finish it off. You don't get a lot of cut out of a 320. The finer the belt, the less cut you'll get out of it, so you don't get a lot out of these. Now I believe this is going down to a 600 grade. I think that's where we're at now. Well, or this could be the 600. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the 600 grade now. But this is a pretty fine abrasive as far as we go down to a 600 glaze like that. Now, once we've got to that stage, we can actually brush it up on a sisal mop. So we use a polishing compound that's got a little bit of cut in it, so get them with varying degrees of cut and varying degrees of greasiness. So we're using something that's appropriate for steel. Now you can see the shine. Now when you're doing this polishing operation here, you can't really see from the video, but you are putting a lot of weight onto it. You really lean into the machine because that steel doesn't want to polish easily, so it's quite active. Keep putting the polishing compound on. Just more of the same. Now even on this you're going in a different direction to the last polishing operation you just did, because if you don't change direction, that's a technique called blinding. Now it will make something look shiny, but you won't have removed the marks that you've put in before, and what happens then is it looks great, but then when you go and plate it, it will come out with all loads of linishing marks and scratches all running down it that you couldn't see. This is the only way to get a good finish, the only way. Now he's put a bit of lime on his gloves and on his apron. He's trying to just finishing it off. Wiping it over with a cloth with some lime on it. That's to remove the slight little bit of greasiness, because you can't inspect the bumper and make sure that it's been polished to the right standard unless you can actually get it clean. So this just cleans it very quickly. There we go, all polished, ready for plating. Slotting it in there. Now before it goes through into the plating shop, this particular bumper hasn't got any brackets on the back, so just like when we stripped it, we're going to have to pass an electrical current through it. So we're going to have somewhere to attach wires to. So what we do is we're going to solder some copper wires onto the back. So we've got some tags that we can wire to. Now through into the plating shop. The video quality goes downhill for a moment here. What happened was the camera was all set up for the light levels that we're in, and as this is being wired up and put on copper wires, the sun came out really brightly and shone through the skylights and basically whited out the camera footage. So I've recovered what I can. You can just about see it's passing a copper wire through those tags that we put on it earlier. It's been wired up on copper wires. As we move out of the bright light, you start to see a bit more. There we go. That's into a cleaner tank. It's been cleaned. It's just a soapy cleaner. We did clean that with a cloth in there, but you couldn't really see the footage due to the light conditions. Now what's happening now is this is a different type of cleaner. There's a lot of cyanide in there because cyanide's a great cleaner, and we pass an electrical current through it which blasts the oxides off the surface of the metal and leaves the metal in what's known as an active state. So we've activated the metal. This allows it to act so that the plating will stick. If you don't activate it, it'll plate, but it won't stick and it will peel off. So we're going through a rinse system here, and then this is into a dilute acid solution, a little bit like a finger bowl. It's about as strong as vinegar, and what that does is that just washes off any soapy residue from the cleaners, because if you don't do that, then it will plate, but it will stain and it will look terrible. So into the nickel tank there. It's the nickel that gives it all the good looks and weather protection. Because this bumper polished up really nicely, there was no need to copper plate it. If you think of copper doing in plating what a high build primer does in paint, you're about right. So that's been cooking away for an hour or so. Put a nice layer of nickel on. You have to put the nickel on slowly so you get a nice ductile, weather resistant coating. If you put it on fast, you get a porous coating that's absolutely no use for protecting things out in the elements. This is where most of your cheap quality chrome falls down. If you put it on fast, it's just not very good. So a nice swill in here. This is just through the same fresh water coming in. And the final operation for this bumper is going to be into the chrome tank. Now, as I said before, all the weather protection is from the nickel layer. But the big problem with nickel, other than it's a more yellowy colour than the chrome you're used to, is it tarnishes like steel or brass. So you would have to polish all of your bright work every week to keep on top of it. So the chrome is a flash of plating on top, and its only purpose is really to stop the nickel from tarnishing and change it to a chrome colour that we're used to. So that's been in there 3 or 4 minutes, because it really isn't a lot of plating that goes on at this stage. There we go. gets the swill in the drag out. Now that is actually just water that's contaminated with chrome, and we use that tank to top up the chrome tank. This is a tank of sodium metabisulfite which neutralises any chrome that's left on it. Neutralises chromic acid and is a food preservative. Now if you like our work and want to see more of it, click on that subscribe button, and if you hit the notification bell it tells you every time we upload a video. There we go. It's just an inspection away from being finished now. Now before we can say this is good and ready to go to the customer, we're going to have to give it a clean. What we're actually doing is we're just removing any finger marks, watermarks, all that sort of thing, so that we can really see that everything's fine, there's no marks there. We check the order off against the list that we've got, make sure all the parts are there, etc. This one's easy as it's only one part. There we go, that one's fine. Sitting next to a Triumph TR6 bumper I saw. So anytime you need some plating doing, give us a call. Remember to hit subscribe so you can see our work in the future.